standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No, because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation tonight. Is Britain on the brink of another financial crisis? Inflation continues to rise, borrowing costs are at a 27-year high, and the public is set for further tax hikes. Can the Chancellor get a grip on our financial woes before it's too late? Also tonight, Labour's plans to tackle illegal migration are falling apart. Following Epping's success in the courts, more councils are looking to ban migrant hotels. While at the same time, it's been reported that the Home Office may be blocked from deporting illegal immigrants. Can the government ever get a grip? Private schools are going bust at double last year's rate as Labour's VAT policy starts to bite. Plus, a new government levy will hit millions of households with higher energy bills to subsidise poorer homes. Is Middle England being ruined? And the Prince of Wales's retreat to the secluded Forest Lodge has caused a stir. With just 71 public engagements last year against the Princess Royal's 474 and the King's 372, is he setting the monarchy up for a bright future? Or will his quest for privacy risk fading the monarchy into obscurity? State of the Nation starts now. I'll also be joined by my most pertinacious panel, the former spokesman for Reform UK, Gawain Tola, and the political commentator whose name isn't on my thing, is Matthew Stadland. As ever, let me know your views, mailmore@gbnews.com. But now it's your favourite time of the day, the News Bulletin with Sam Francis.
Jacob, thank you very much indeed, and good evening to you. The top story tonight: more asylum hotels could soon face legal challenges after a landmark High Court ruling in Essex. Epping Forest Council won an injunction to block migrants from being housed at the Bell Hotel, arguing it had become a safety risk to the public and breached planning rules. Asylum seekers must now leave that site by the 12th of September. Other councils are also weighing up similar action, including Conservative-run Broxbourne and all 12 Reform UK authorities. Ministers, though, admit the case could have a major impact on housing for more than 32,000 asylum seekers. The Home Office says, though, it remains committed to ending its use of hotels by the end of this Parliament. Well, the Conservatives' Chris Philp is calling on the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper to guarantee that asylum seekers won't simply be moved from hotels into apartments.
Well, the use of asylum hotels dropped considerably in the last 2 years of the last government. Illegal channel crossings went down by a third during our last full year in office. But what we've seen since the election is a record ever number of illegal immigrants cross the channel because Labour have lost control of our borders. Many councils, including Conservative councils, will be challenging the use of asylum hotels. Of course, it was a Conservative council, Epping, which successfully challenged the government because people don't want these hotels in the middle of their communities. But let's not forget, the reason these hotels are there in the first place is because this Labour government has lost control of our borders.
Tonight, Israel says it has begun the first stages of a planned assault on Gaza City, with troops now holding the outskirts. 10,000 or tens of thousands of reservists have been called up, though most won't enter combat until September, leaving just a narrow window for truce talks with Hamas. European leaders are warning that move, they say, can only lead to disaster, while the Red Cross says Gaza's 2.1 million people already face a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Israel does say civilians will be evacuated before any major offensive, but it is determined to dismantle Hamas and free the remaining hostages there. NATO insists it isn't directly involved in talks on security guarantees for Ukraine, despite, they say, constant collaboration with allies. Officials say the alliance is focused on its core defence role, while the so-called coalition of the willing, led by the UK, France and the US, takes the lead. Russia has rejected any talk of NATO membership for Ukraine, with Moscow warning against alliance troops on its soil. President Donald Trump has also ruled it out, though he's pushing for a Putin-Zelensky meeting, admitting the conflict is tough to solve. Scottish Labour MSP Colin Smythe has been charged by police over indecent images. The 52-year-old was arrested earlier this month and has now been suspended by Labour. In a statement, he said the events had come as a shock, calling it a deeply stressful time, and confirmed he is cooperating fully with inquiries. Labour has removed the whip pending investigation and says it can't comment any further. A former priest who once led a powerful evangelical movement has today been exposed as a sexual predator. 68-year-old Christopher Brain, head of the 9 o'clock service in Sheffield, was found guilty of 17 counts of indecent assault against 9 women in the 1980s and 90s. Jurors have heard that Brain turned the church group into a cult, surrounding himself with young women he groomed and abused under the guise of spiritual care. He showed no emotion as the verdicts were read out today, and the jury is still considering further charges, including rape. And UK inflation has risen higher than expected, up 3.8% in July. The ONS says transport costs were the biggest driver, with airfares surging more than 30%. That's the sharpest monthly rise since records began. Treasury Minister Torsten Bell says the government will keep inflation under control while supporting households with the costs of living.
Price rises are disappointing for everybody. We've seen energy prices come down in July, but they're still too high. That's why it's so important that we keep easing the cost of living, keep acting on that. That's why we're raising the minimum wage, it's why we're capping bus fares, it's why we're extending free school meals, and it's why the stability that's allowed 5 interest rate cuts since the election is so important.
Those are the latest headlines, at least I can say that correctly, and I'll be back with you in an hour.
Well, welcome back to State of the Nation. Is Britain on the brink of a financial crisis? Every Labour government this country has ever had has led the country into a financial crisis. You remember, as well as I do, 1931, 1949, 1967, 1976 and 2008. So let's look at what Rachel Reeves is contending with ahead of the autumn budget. The deficit, well, there's an annual deficit of £152 billion for 2024-25, which is over 5% of GDP, and the national debt is about 100% of GDP. Inflation has risen to nearly double the Bank of England's target, reaching 3.8% in July, and the target's 2%. It was 2.2% when Labour took office just 13 months ago, so that's almost double. Borrowing costs. This is really important because this feeds through to the deficit, and it has to be paid every year as the 30-year gilt hits 5.6% this week, which is a 27-year high. And that's before we get on to the £50 billion black hole that has been predicted that the Chancellor Rachel Reeves faces with a shortfall in the public finances. Rumours suggest there's a plan to impose capital gains on home sales or a mansion tax, and this is just a last-ditch effort to try and plug the gap that will have consequences for growth. And there are warning signs. The National Institute for Economic and Social Research predicts sluggish growth, a weak jobs market, rising welfare costs and debt interest payments of over £111 billion. Just contextualise £111 billion, that's more than the defence budget. It's more than the education budget. It is an enormous amount of money. It's akin to what we spend on the state pension every year, just going on interest. So that means there either have to be tax hikes or spending cuts, because to meet her fiscal rules, Rachel Reeves may need an extra £51.1 billion, which would be equivalent to a 5% income tax hike across the board. Then we've had a cut in interest rates so far, but with inflation rising, that may be harder to continue. So rates came down to 4% on the short end on August the 7th, but economists are now warning there won't be any further cuts this year. This may put pressure on the pound. It's up a little this year, but will it stay at these levels if international markets aren't willing to finance British debt? Conclusion is that with spending out of control, taxes are set to rise further, and investment confidence is dwindling, people are leaving the country, Britain does seem to be on the edge of a financial meltdown. It's another socialist financial crisis. As ever, let me know your views via mailmog@gbnews.com. But I'm now joined by somebody who knows the economy better than almost anyone in the country, Julian Jessup. Julian, thank you very much for joining me. Now, thank you. Let's start with inflation, because, as you pointed out, the Bank of England expected it would go up, expected it would go to 4%. How worried should we be about today's spike?
Well, I wouldn't worry too much about the increase today, because that was partly explained by the big jump in airfares, which I think is just a measurement problem because they're very volatile at this time of year. It's more the trend that worries me. And what I do here, I often compare what's happening in the UK to the euro area. So UK inflation is 3.8%. In the euro area, it's only 2%. So what's explaining that difference? Well, actually, I think a lot of it is down to government policy. So lots of prices that the government now sets, things like domestic energy bills, the national minimum wage, that's all gone up. The other areas as well, so housing costs are rising. That's because we're not building enough houses, and that's partly down to the government too. And then there's the pass-through of the tax increases in last October's budget. So that was presented as a tax on companies, but of course it's become a tax on workers, as employer national insurance contributions are reflected in higher prices, lower pay and fewer jobs. So the main reason why we've got inflation picking up in the UK, much more than in the rest of Europe, is government policies.
And inflation has a consequence on interest rates, because obviously people want to get a real return on their money. The bond market really has turned quite sour for the government. The 5.61% yield now on the 30-year gilt is a problem both in terms of the annual budget, because that's a lot of money that can't be spent on public services. But there comes a tipping point, doesn't there, at which the government finds it hard to finance itself. Do you think we're getting close to that, or that's alarmist?
No, I think we are. I think we're in the early stages of a financial crisis already. So, as you say, not only is the economy weak, but there are warning signs in the bond market as well. I think there are sort of three domestic reasons why bond yields have risen, and all of them are pretty bad. One is that international investors don't have a lot of confidence in Rachel Reeves and the government's ability to keep the public finances on track without big increases in tax that could actually just undermine growth even further. So markets are rightly worried, I think, about the so-called doom loop. The second problem is that the Bank of England throughout this period has actually been selling government bonds back onto the market, which is very unusual. Most central banks are not doing that anywhere near as aggressively. So rather than the central bank supporting the bond market, they're actually undermining it. And then the third thing is higher inflation. I personally think the Bank of England will be right to continue to look past the current spike in inflation and keep cutting rates. But the markets are concerned that they won't. So we'll have higher inflation and higher short-term interest rates, which are pressuring the bond market as well.
I'm very interested in those points. I wonder if we could talk a little bit more about the Bank of England selling government bonds, because this seems to me to have a dual negative. One is that it pushes up the yield on government bonds, but also it pushes up the annual deficit because it's making a loss on these bonds, and that has a further effect on the demand for gilts and indeed the supply.
Well, that's right, because when the Bank of England makes a loss by selling bonds at a lower price than it paid for them, then the Treasury has to compensate it for that loss. So that's money that the Treasury has to give to the Bank of England that can't be used for ordinary forms of public spending. The Bank of England itself, I think, has got a rather odd view here. So originally, the Bank of England was buying government bonds to support the economy, to drive down interest rates and to prevent a deeper recession. But it doesn't seem to see the reversal of that policy as doing the opposite, whereas clearly it is. So it's putting upward pressure on yields, it's weakening the economy, it's dampening the money supply. The Bank of England is supposed to be reviewing this policy once a year, and the next review is in September. So it's possible we'll get a change in policy then. But until then, it's not just high interest rates that are the problem. It's the fact that the bank is engaged in this policy of quantitative tightening, which is another form of monetary policy that is slowing the economy.
Indeed, and they've got quantitative tightening coming from the sale of gilts and other bonds with with monetary relaxation by the reduction of interest rates. So it's a slightly contradictory policy. I also want to ask you a bit more about the doom loop, because economists depend so much on confidence, and in a globalised market, so much is dependent on the confidence that foreigners have in the UK. There is a point at which the bond market falls, the pound falls, and then people have a great rush to take their money out. This is basically, I suppose, what happened in 1976 when the IMF bailout was needed. Do you think we're close to that?
Yeah, I don't quite think we're in IMF territory just yet. I mean, the big difference back, as you say, in 1976, we had a massive balance of payments crisis. So we actually had to borrow US dollars from the IMF in order to allow the UK to continue buying things that are priced in foreign currency. We're not there yet. So all our borrowing, of course, is in sterling. And if nothing else, the government gets to continue to create more sterling to finance those debts if it wants to. So I don't think the crisis will take the form of the need to go to the IMF. But of course, all this risk of money printing and higher government spending has other consequences. It distorts the economy. It means weaker growth. It means higher inflation. So we get a different sort of doom loop where the economy just continues to struggle. You mentioned, by the way, the forecasts of a black hole of as much as 50 billion. I think those numbers are a bit pessimistic because they assume that growth remains very weak, but that's certainly a possibility. And that, of course, will be the doom loop in action right in front of us. If the government has to keep raising taxes to fill a black hole, then it's just going to undermine growth further. And as you say, undermine business, consumer and investor confidence. And we're never going to get out of that trap.
Well, Julian, thank you very much for that incisive and clear explanation of where we are. I'm very grateful you could join me this evening. In a moment, Labour's plans to tackle illegal migration are falling apart. Following Epping's success in the courts, more councils are looking to ban migrant hotels, while at the same time it's been reported that the Home Office may be blocked from deporting illegal migrants. Can the government get a grip on this?
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
white working class pupils being left behind, being written off?
Well, as one of those white working class boys when I was younger, many moons ago, I would have to agree with her. I think it's definitely something that for years has been very obvious in the data, and it hasn't been addressed, and the gap has not been yet bridged. So I can't disagree with her, although I don't fully agree with her approach or lack of what that approach is at the moment.
Well, yeah, should there be special programmes for white working class kids? I mean, you do see a lot of special programmes for ethnic minority kids, for girls too.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't about identity politics. This is really about a disadvantaged group of people in our society. If we fail them, we fail everyone else, we fail Britain. I think we can't ignore white working class pupils just because they're white. They're disadvantaged. If they're disadvantaged, like any other disadvantaged group we've looked at, we've raised the bar with any other group. We've made sure that we've invested the right systems and processes in place, and we've seen the impact of that. Just look at London, where I've worked for the last 15 years or so. London has proven a blueprint where we can do this with disadvantaged students. So we need to roll that out to other places in the coastal towns, in the post-industrial towns in the UK.
Now, what did London do differently? Obviously, the London Challenge, there was a heap of money.
Funding, I don't think, is the main problem. If you think about the national funding formula, London turned around itself with the same national funding formula as other parts of the UK. It was the leadership, it was the expectations, the teaching quality that made the difference. And if you are going to put money anywhere, it should really probably go in attracting the best teachers into those places.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Well, welcome back. I'm still Jacob Rees-Mogg, and we were discussing the looming financial crisis, and the mailmogs have come in. Graham says this Labour administration will end like most, with a run on sterling, the humiliation of enforced spending cuts by the IMF. Labour is incapable of being proactive on spending. And Alan says Starmer and Reeves are leading this country into uncharted waters. It really is time to be worried. They, like his other frontbenchers, are out of their depth. Very dangerous to be out of your depth in uncharted waters. And Colin says Starmer is trying to be a statesman and failing miserably. The world is laughing at him. However, we've got a personal mailmog because Matthew wants to say just a word or two on what we've been discussing.
Just very quickly, interesting to listen to Julian and his assessment of things. I think we've got to be a little bit careful of not talking ourselves into a financial crisis. The Labour government was criticised, wasn't it, in the first few months or first few weeks in power as having talked the economy down. So I think, yes, of course, we've got to be analytical, but let's not panic, and certainly let's not induce panic. If you remember Liz Truss, who was leader when you were a Secretary of State, who was Prime Minister, there's no doubt she spooked the markets. Rachel Reeves, so far, thank goodness, has not done that, even if the cost of government borrowing is higher now than it was at that crisis point.
Well, let's hope the markets don't get too spooked. Is Labour's alleged migration crackdown already unravelling? A High Court judge has ordered migrants be removed from the Bell Hotel in Epping, potentially setting a precedent for councils nationwide to follow suit and bring the asylum hotel system crashing down. Listen to Labour's Parliamentary Secretary to the Treasury, Torsten Bell's reaction to the ruling.
We'll carefully consider the court's judgment, but we inherited a completely broken asylum system, a disgraceful situation. Under the Conservatives, we had up to 400 asylum hotels. We brought those numbers down, and we're working closely with communities to make sure we close all asylum hotels over the course of this Parliament.
Well, despite government deflections and blame games, now a fresh legal challenge claims the Home Office's AI system, AI-style deportation algorithms are unlawful, potentially blocking Sir Keir Starmer's flagship plan to remove channel migrants and foreign criminals. So, in the absence of hotels and a total inability to deport foreign migrants, what will Labour do with them? I'm glad to say that my most pugnacious and punctilious and pertinacious panel, the former spokesman for Reform, Gawain Tola, and the political commentator Matthew Stadman are here with me. Well, Matthew, I'll give you the first go on this. Dare I say, I'm almost beginning to feel some sympathy with this government, because this seems to me the problem that has built up. I think it's Labour's fault, going back for many years, that this country can't be governed anymore, because everything you do is now decided by the courts, but the courts don't have to take our overall picture. They just decide, well, this doesn't meet planning, and this doesn't meet GDPR rules. And if you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do anything.
This is a problem for whoever is in power, and I maintain that. How strongly did we believe Keir Starmer ahead of the election and ever since? Well, he's recently stopped saying he's going to smash the gangs, because I think it's a little bit like him saying that his father was a toolmaker. He knows that people are getting tired of that, and they clearly haven't smashed the gangs. There was some hope, but this was a major problem for the Tory governments. This is a major problem for this government, and if Gawain's party Reform were to run the country in 4 years' time, my very strong belief is it would be a major problem for their government. And one of the reasons for this is because it is being whipped up by the populist right, but also it's so visible, and therefore it's capable of being whipped up, because these boats are a relatively new phenomenon. We had illegal immigration. We had people overstaying visas. We had people coming on the backs of lorries before the boats, but the boats are a gift to Nigel Farage. After Brexit, he wanted a new challenge, and he started appearing in the Channel, and that has fundamentally changed politics in this country.
It is almost as if you think that the boats are there because Nigel went onto a boat in the Channel. That seems to be very weird. He saw what was going on and reported on it on this channel, not that channel. I think there is some truth in what you say. It is ungovernable, the way things are, but I think what is changing is that there's a paradigm shift in the British people. And that will allow a more radical approach in a government. Up until now, I grew up absolutely proud of the fact that this country was open to people looking for asylum and things of this sort. Absolutely. Between 1947 and 1997, it was about 40 to 50,000, 60,000 a year. That's how many arrived. That was it. With the massive increase in legal and illegal immigration, in families coming over and things of this sort, that goodwill, that good nature of the British people has broken.
There is no such thing, by the way, as the British people. This is a phrase used by the likes of Nigel Farage to try to...
What on earth do you mean?
I mean that the British people don't think as a lump. We don't think as a lump. For example, you and I have very different views.
Stop,
well, you know
Matthew,
this.
Matthew,
Reform got, 30% of the vote. So please don't talk about the British people, because you and I are both equally British, and we have very different views on certain things.
But what is happening is the Overton window on issues like this has changed significantly.
I think some truth
really
in that.
And it's changing fast and moving faster. The phenomenon of flags being put up and down the country...
That's just so pathetic, isn't it?
Well,
I am as patriotic as the next man and woman.
I disagree with you.
I am as patriotic as the next man and woman. I do not feel the need to go and start putting flags on lampposts, but I don't feel insecure about my Englishness.
I don't feel secure.
I love our country.
Great.
It's got problems. I don't need to go and shout from the rooftops.
Hold on,
I do when I go to sports games, by the way.
Stop a moment. I'm basically pointing out that this is a signifier of a significant change in the attitude of people in this country.
How many people are putting up flags?
A lot of people are enjoying it. I'll tell you what.
On X.
I will tell you
on
what.
X.
The business of, in the 10 councils, the Reform control, that policy of saying only the county flag, the Union Jack and the English flag is massively popular in those councils.
What about the Ukrainian flag, for example? They were flying from almost every house, weren't they, at one point?
And if you want to fly from your house, carry on. But this is the British government.
Buildings,
yes, I know, and there is a problem with that. And all the various fissiparious little groups.
But what's your solution, Gawain? Because I watched this show yesterday. I saw your panel. I saw Kelvin Mackenzie and Michael Crick battle it out over what might be done. The government's policy is to try to stop the boats. It is failing. What would you do?
You change the incentives.
And how are you going to do that?
By changing the law. And the courts have to interpret the law as passed.
Fine. And by the way, Jacob, you say that the politicians of this country are somehow trapped by the lawyers or the judges. No. politicians can change the
That's
law.
my point.
They could, if they wanted to, for example, opt out of the ECHR,
Absolutely right.
as we
Precisely.
Brexited. I don't think if we left the ECHR, that would stop the boat.
Well,
and I don't think you think that's
have
easy
not
to
on
do
its
it.
own, but it's part of the process.
It's part of the process. Brexit was necessary, but it wasn't the final solution of this problem.
But Jacob
what
was
you
saying
need
yesterday,
to do,
send them to El Salvador. I mean, this is fantasy
But what
land.
you don't understand, what you seem not to understand, is that the people of this, a lot of the people of this country, an increasing number, significantly increasing and fast. And let's be honest, the support for the Labour Party has dropped and is about, 9 points behind reform, and has been for a while now, and that is not getting narrower. That support is growing. And why? Because people are utterly fed up to the back teeth. And the point is, these days, more and more people are saying, look, I don't wish anybody ill, but I don't want them here. It's not a question of them being in the Bell Hotel in Epping. People in Epping don't want them there at all. At all. It's not about moving them to HMOs. It's we don't want them here at all.
You bring up HMOs, that's an important point. Just to be clear with viewers,
and we're starting to say we don't care.
I understand that there are some people who feel that way. By the way, HMOs is where people will go, I imagine, and
so.
already do. To a large extent, or a certain extent, after they leave the hotels, that's going to be another problem for the government.
There's no way this government can do it. It's beyond their paradigm.
You say people started to say they don't care. That is
more and more people
because
feel
they are
that way.
being whipped up into this
No,
hatred
they're being whipped
and
up
this
because
sense
of the
fear.
evidence of their
They're
eyes
not.
on the streets and
Some
the
may
villages
be.
and towns of this country.
Some may be. But the evidence of what?
The
People
evidence
who
of
want to come to this country to make a better life for themselves, I agree. You don't have a right to come to this country to make a better life for yourself.
No, you don't.
You do have a right to seek asylum, and there are some of both. But I think you've got to be incredibly careful. You may wish not to be, not to mischaracterise how people actually feel. The idea that we don't care in this country.
Increasing numbers
what
in this
happens
country
to people?
no
Calvin
longer
McKenzie
care.
was talking about machine guns, I hope rhetorically, yesterday on this show.
Well, I think my panel has been both pertinacious and pugnacious tonight. There'll be more to come because private schools are going bust at double last year's rate as Labour's VAT policy starts to bite. Plus, a new government levy will hit millions of households with higher energy bills to subsidise poorer homes. Is Middle England being ruined?
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
For anyone heading further afield for a break over the next few days, it is going to be hot for southern parts of Spain, thundery through central Mediterranean and fairly breezy through Greece, especially around the islands, but less hot here compared with last week. Some hot sunshine in the south of Italy, very thundery through central and northern Italy, Croatia, the Alps as well. Plenty of fine weather for Iberia, staying breezy through the Canaries, and it stays similar across central Med through the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, good evening to you. Hope you're well. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, as we go through the next 24 hours, it's going to stay dry for the vast majority of us, but worth bearing in mind, could be a little chilly. We have had a cold front pushing its way across the country through today. It's not brought much rain, not at all, just a bit of cloud perhaps, but we do have slightly fresher air across us at the moment, and with lots of clear skies around, that's why we're going to see temperatures taking a bit of a dip. Not totally clear skies, some parts of central southern Scotland and down the eastern side of England. A bit more cloud here, a bit more of a breeze, so temperatures not quite dropping so low here, and generally towns and cities holding up in double figures, but towards the west, where we get the clear skies, temperatures tonight could drop to low single figures, so a bit of a fresh, chilly start for some of us. But a bright start across much of northern Scotland. A few showers still for the Northern Isles and down the far northeast of Scotland as well. Across more central southern parts of Scotland, a bit more cloud here, perhaps a few spots of rain early on. But a brighter picture for Northern Ireland and much of England and Wales, although across parts of the southeast in particular, a bit of cloud here and a few showery bursts towards the coast as well. Also a bit of a breeze here, in fact down the whole eastern side as we go through the day. There is always always going to be a bit of a nagging breeze, making it feel a little bit fresher. And across central eastern parts, a bit more cloud bubbling up at times as we go through towards lunchtime. Some of that will break up, so some brighter sunny spells developing as we go through the afternoon. But a good deal of sunshine across northern parts and also towards the southwest, and feeling warm in that sunshine with temperatures peaking in the low 20s Celsius. Another fine day on offer as we go through Friday. Perhaps a bit of rain pushing into the far northwest of Scotland, but otherwise lots of dry weather, some brightness around and just a few spots of rain here and there. High pressure staying in control as we go into the weekend, so things are staying fine. Lots of sunny spells and temperatures creeping up a little as well. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Did we vote for a socialist dystopia? Private schools are going bust at twice last year's rate as Labour's VAT rate starts to bite, just as a new levy on energy bills to subsidise poorer households will hit. Energy bills are expected to rise by £1,720 to £1,737 this autumn, with 90% of the rise attributed to the expansion of the Warm Homes discount. The government is taking away more and more of the citizens' ability to choose what to do with their own money and spearheading more and more inefficient, costly state control over public services and products. Is Labour leading us under neo-communist totalitarianism? Well, I'm glad to say my panel is still with me to discuss this. Gawain, the private school closures is directly relatable to VAT.
It is.
But then they have to go into the state system.
But it's not just relatable to VAT. Private schools are also impacted by NIC increases. They're also impacted by energy increases. They're also impacted by everything else that impacts any other private business or home. And so it is an extra weight upon their back. It's an extra straw in many cases and the one that breaks. But one has to remember, and I was just talking to the headmistress of my old school, and she was saying, in the village in which the school is based, that school is the only significant employer. There's two people working in the post office. There's a couple of people working one of the farms. And the school, groundsmen, staff, teachers, this, that, and the other, and from reasonably well paid right down to the basic minimum wage jobs, is the largest employer. You lose that, it's like a village losing a coal mine. It's absolutely devastating.
I just wish, as a privately educated pupil myself, as you were, and as your three ex-private school boys, and as a parent of two children, I just wish, and this would make it much harder for me to send, my wife and I, to send our children to a private school. I just wish we could devote this airtime to improving our state schools, where let me just make the point, where 94% of pupils in this country go. The hoo-ha about private schools, and I have individual sympathy for any school that has to shut down. And by the way, they've been shutting down over time.
But this is double the rates, come on.
If that is a direct consequence, fine. And I have sympathy for those schools, for the staff involved. I have sympathy for the children. But please, in the media, why are we saturated by a concern for this 6% rather than a concern for improving state education?
We can come to that, but I'm now joined by our headmaster, Sergei Sophie. Thank you very much for joining me. What effect is this having on pupils, and what strain is it potentially putting on state schools as they have to take in extra numbers?
Well, the first thing I would say is it's a pity that the government has chosen to penalise parents who want to pay twice for their education. I strive to make sure my parents have that level of engagement, because it's all about a partnership between home and school. All I can tell you about where the money's going, this money that's being saved, well, my schools haven't seen a bean of it. I doubt if it will see a bean of it. I think it's a wrong move. I think children will be affected, and whenever they are affected, whether it's the state sector or the private sector, I'm always upset. I was upset during COVID, you know, and lots of other ways that our children are being affected. In terms of, have I had any effect of private schools closing and seen an input from kids who now can't afford it? Not yet, but September hasn't arrived as yet. We will see. And some of those special needs children who benefit from small classes, good pupil-teacher ratios, another thing that I strive for. As much money as I can spend, I will spend on teachers to reduce pupil-teacher ratios. So I think the government needs to have a look at private schools. And head teachers like me, I've always looked at the private sector and think, well, hold on a minute. Why are people prepared to pay twice? There's obviously something good going on there. And so we try and copy it as best we can. Obviously, we won't have the finances, but looking at pupil-teacher ratios, making sure I engage the parents as much as possible is a good thing. And if we've got it going on in our society, bearing in mind I haven't seen any benefits of this 20% extra, I don't know why they've chosen this method to do this. I really don't get it.
And we've seen very strong improvements in education results in England since 2010, as the state sector has become more like the private sector. And it seems to me this is just an effort to cut down some of our best performing education, particularly, as you mentioned, for pupils with special needs.
Well, again, a underperforming school never got better by reducing the effectiveness of a good school. And I would go, you know, it's not only education, that goes across the board. If you've got excellence in your society, you look up, you don't bring them down. And it's something that it seems to me, the people in charge of education, the sooner it gets out of political hands, as far as I'm concerned, the better. We need long-term strategies. It mustn't be party political, because I'm sick of it, I have to say, after 46 years in the job. It's the best job ever, but we are struggling with recruitment, and this sort of thing does not help.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much, Sergio, and thank you for all you do as a headmaster. I'm now going to get back to my panel, both on this and on the energy prices, because energy prices are going to go up so that one set of customers subsidises others. Now, I think this is fundamentally wrong, that if you want to have a subsidy, it should be done through the tax and benefits system, not on taxing people indirectly in a sort of fraudulent way, in my view.
And it's going to be another example. I mean, it's this idea that the government wants to bring in wealth taxes. It's bringing in wealth taxes. It's constantly bringing in wealth taxes at all sorts of levels. The wealthy paid the most already. And to hit them time and time and time again, it feels wrong. Because they're the ones who produce the wealth. They're the ones who pay the taxes.
And it's the middle class, as you were saying, wasn't it, on your show yesterday? It's the middle classes who bear the brunt of taxation.
And this is what will happen here, because there's this increase that is going to happen in October on fuel bills, 90% of which is to fund the Warmer Homes scheme. Now, Warmer Homes is a great scheme. I'm not against less well-off people having help with their fuel bills. But this is a stealth tax. The government said it won't raise income tax, it won't raise national insurance, won't raise VAT. So it puts a sly tax on it. It's the dishonesty of it that I don't like. And of course it hits middle-income earners much more than anybody else.
So which tax would you like to go up to make sure that less well-off people have warmer homes?
Oh, well, I would look at cuts in public expenditure. I think we are spending far too much money. I would actually get rid of the £20 billion that is being spent on carbon capture and storage, and I would get rid of the billions we're losing that we discussed earlier of the Bank of England selling bonds. That is a direct cost to the taxpayer every year. So there's two big savings that would more than count for this.
I think with a transition to a greener economy, and that is inevitable, we just are going to do that.
It isn't.
It takes time. And
it isn't inevitable.
Although this
it is only inevitable in your mind.
It's not inevitable. I can assure you, because the world is getting hotter. We know that, and it's getting hotter partly, at least, because of us.
And partly
we have to transition to a green economy, and that takes time, and it will require subsidies in the early stages.
But why does this country that produces so little we must be the leaders? No, often in almost every endeavour, those who lead make huge mistakes.
Such a defeatist attitude.
No, those who lead make huge mistakes. You learn from other people's mistakes and do it better. Why do we have to make the mistakes? Why would we have to destroy our economy? Why do we have to export our jobs?
We're not destroying our economy. And actually, there are a lot of jobs in the green sector, as you know.
This year we've just seen employment go up, and employment's gone up in the public sector, not in the private sector.
If every country around the world said, "I'll just leave the climate change issue, one of the most pressing issues, probably the most pressing issue of our time, to other countries."
Is it really the most pressing issue?
Pass the buck. It's so pathetic. It's not leadership. I thought you guys are about leadership.
No. I want this country to lead for itself, not for the rest of the world. We are no longer the global empire. I don't want to be the imperial power. I want to care about this country.
It will help us to be independent from foreign tyrants, so that we can be self-sufficient.
So we open our gas fields.
And it might be painful in the early stages.
Open our gas fields, so we do other things, so we let the North Sea roll.
That's just throwing our heads in the air.
No, it's not. It's looking at what we have and taking advantage of it.
I say no, we mustn't give up.
Flanders and Swan, I need to get a word in edgeways.
Two of the greatest.
And the word in edgeways is, of course, fish slice. Anyway, in a moment, the Prince of Wales' retreat to secluded Forest Lodge has caused a stir. With a mere 71 public engagements last year against the Princess Royal's 474 and the King's 372, is he setting the monarchy up for a bright future, or will his quest for privacy risk fading the monarchy into obscurity?
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The heir to the throne has both privileges and duties. Palaces on the one hand, but no privacy on the other. It's a full-time obligation of public duty. The Prince of Wales has reportedly found his forever home in the 8-bedroomed Forest Lodge and apparently does not want to live in either Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle. However, with a mere 71 public engagements last year, his workload compares unfavourably to the Princess Royal's 474, the King's 372, even while His Majesty was undergoing treatment for cancer. And, of course, the example set by the late Queen. Can the future monarch embrace the duties of the crown without living in a palace and, as Queen Elizabeth II put it, being seen to be believed? Well, there is no better royal author, journalist and expert on all these matters to discuss this with than Robert Hardman. Robert, thank you for joining me. I was very struck by a piece in today's Daily Mail, the paper you write for, by Amanda Platel, because the Daily Mail is normally very supportive of the royal family, but she was being very tough on the Prince of Wales today and indicating that this decision to hide away was not a good one. Do you think this is becoming a problem?
Good evening, Jacob. Well, it's certainly a talking point. I don't think it's a problem to see it. I mean, I think what we've seen is that a conflation of lots of different things driven by the decision of the Waleses to move from one small house on the Windsor estate to a larger, but still in the scheme of royal things, relatively small house on the Windsor estate. I mean, last year, let's face it, was an extraordinary one for the whole monarchy, and particularly for the Waleses. I mean, yes, if you go by the metrics of the court circular, then it looks like Prince William wasn't doing very much last year, but actually he was doing a great deal last year, just most of it wasn't being logged in the traditional way in the court circular, which is the sort of tally of official royal engagements. They are a couple who do things differently, and they have made that very clear in the way that they engage with the media, for example, in the way they run their charities. It's a fairly streamlined charity operation at Kensington Palace compared to, say, the King when he was Prince of Wales at the same age. He had literally hundreds and hundreds of charities, which he was sort of spread fairly thinly across, as well as his central Prince's Trust. Prince William prefers to focus on a core group of charities and to sort of do it his own way, and a lot of that doesn't end up in the court circular, which is why you don't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis.
But Robert, that's an easy thing to put right, isn't it? Because the court circular started because people were worried about, I think, what the Hanoverians were doing, and they want to have an accurate representation of their day-to-day activities. So the Prince of Wales could simply put out more of what he is actually doing, because that would immediately silence these criticisms and would show that he is active.
Yeah, it would. You're absolutely right, Jacob.
I just wonder if Wales have to spread themselves thinly, that everybody wants a touch of royalty. That's what's so important about it. It's like historically touching for the king's evil. Everyone wants that little touch of royalty, and therefore, if you're very exclusive, you're not being seen by the bulk of your future subjects.
No, it's definitely something that he has to be aware of and wary of. I mean, I go back to my point. I think the events of the last year, I think you can set 2024 aside as a freak year for all sorts of unfortunate reasons. But yeah, looking ahead, as he gets closer to the throne, as time moves on, of course he's going to have to be more in the public domain, because that's what people expect. But I think people expect royalty to do things differently. They accept that different generations do things differently. I mean, in the years of the late Queen, a lot of the royal family, their royal engagements consisted of turning up, cutting ribbons, unveiling plaques and saying, "Have you come far?" And gradually what you have seen And this has been pioneered, I think, really by the King when he was Prince of Wales, and to a significant degree by the Princess Royal as well, is the sort of advent of the executive royal, if you like, the member of the royal family who is less content with doing sort of symbolic, doing 10 school and hospital openings in a day, but actually wants to get more involved with particular charities. And that's the model that I think he's following. Now, he has got to be careful. We've read, and one of the aspects of this, as you pointed out, raised in the Mail today, is this idea that the Prince and Princess want to sort of spend the rest of their life at Forest Lodge on the Windsor estate, not move into Buckingham Palace, not move into Windsor Castle. I don't think that's tenable. That hasn't been formally, officially laid out. I think as time goes on, you can't do that. I mean, when the late Queen came to the throne in 1952, she and Prince Philip had just done up Clarence House as a sort of family home with their 2 young children. They loved it, and they didn't want to move. The Queen Mother, who was resident at Buckingham Palace, didn't want to move out, and so they sort of presented it to the Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Well, look, let's just stay as things are. And it was Churchill who said, no, you've got to move in. We can't have, the monarch has to live above the shop, was how he put it.
Churchill's advice was right, wasn't it? That the king needs to be, the sovereign needs to be in Buckingham Palace, needs to be present in that central place, and that somebody, maybe Keir Starmer, I hope it's one of his long-distance successors, will have to give that advice in due course.
Yes, I think that will be a difficult conversation for whichever Prime Minister it is, because when you had Winston Churchill, the greatest statesman of the age, in an avuncular way saying to a 25-year-old mother of 2 who was very much turning to him for advice, and when Churchill said, I think you belong at Buckingham Palace, would you please go there, then that's what you did. Of course, it will be harder nut to crack for a future PM, but I think Buckingham Palace does, it depends on having a visceral connection between the monarch and Royal HQ, and just treating it as
Robert,
an office.
I'm going to have to finish there because I'm running into the next programme, but thank you so much for joining me. It's much appreciated. Next is the one and only Patrick Christys. Patrick, perhaps we'll have to get you into Buckingham Palace, or would it need to move to Somerset, which would, I think, be a better place for a royal palace?
Well, possibly, yes, but I'm still waiting for my invite for my knighthood, Jacob, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, loads on tonight. So it looks like 19 local authorities are now going to do an Epping and trying to get their migrant hotels closed as well. I'm having a look at the government in massive trouble there. Inflation, property tax, a mansion tax, wealth tax rise in general, energy bills going up, inflation's at a huge high. This government's in a mess in more ways than one, isn't it? All of that and much more.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening to you. Hope you're well. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, as we go through the next 24 hours, it's going to stay dry for the vast majority of us, but worth bearing in mind, could be a little chilly. We have had a cold front pushing its way across the country through today. It's not brought much rain, not at all, just a bit of cloud perhaps, but we do have slightly fresher air across us at the moment, and with lots of clear skies around, that's why we're going to see temperatures taking a bit of a dip. Not totally clear skies, some parts of central southern Scotland and down the eastern side of England. A bit more cloud here, a bit more of a breeze, so temperatures not quite dropping so low here, and generally towns and cities holding up in double figures, but towards the west, where we get the clear skies, temperatures tonight could drop to low single figures, so a bit of a fresh, chilly start for some of us. But a bright start across much of northern Scotland. A few showers still for the Northern Isles and down the far northeast of Scotland as well. Across more central southern parts of Scotland, a bit more cloud here, perhaps a few spots of rain early on. But a brighter picture for Northern Ireland and much of England and Wales, although across parts of the southeast in particular, particular. A bit of cloud here and a few showery bursts towards the coast as well. Also a bit of a breeze here. In fact, down the whole eastern side as we go through the day, there is always going to be a bit of a nagging breeze, making it feel a little bit fresher. And across central eastern parts, a bit more cloud bubbling up at times as we go through towards lunchtime. Some of that will break up, so some brighter sunny spells developing as we go through the afternoon, but a good deal of sunshine across northern parts and also towards the southwest, and feeling warm in that sunshine with temperatures peaking in the low 20s Celsius. Another fine day on offer as we go through Friday, perhaps a bit of rain pushing into the far northwest of Scotland, but otherwise lots of dry weather, some brightness around and just a few spots of rain here and there. High pressure staying in control as we go into the weekend, so things are staying fine. Lots of sunny spells and temperatures creeping up a little as well. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
You've won £54,321.
Please don't joke. This would change my life.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives